In the heart of the city stood a luxurious hotel, its bright lights shining like stars against the darkening sky. Emma walked through the grand lobby, her heels clicking gently on the polished marble floor. The scent of fresh flowers filled the air, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. She clutched her purse tightly, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was her first business trip, and she wanted to make a good impression. As she approached the check-in desk, the receptionist's smile was bright, but Emma wasn't feeling it. Behind her, she could hear a name mentioned that made her roll her eyes. "Of course, Mr. Wilson is checking in," the receptionist said cheerfully, almost singing his name. Emma felt a wave of irritation. She didn't know who Mr. Wilson was, but the way people spoke about him, the way they lit up, made her uncomfortable. It was almost as if they were worshiping him. She let out a quiet sigh, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. With a swift check-in, Emma received her key and headed for the elevator. While she waited, she heard laughter and chatter behind her. It was a group of hotel staff lined along the wall, all eyes fixed on the entrance. She caught a glimpse of a man stepping through the revolving doors. He wore a tailored suit that fit him perfectly. As he walked in, the world seemed to change around him. There was an energy that surrounded him, almost magnetic. Emma couldn't help but glance over her shoulder. "Mister," a young server exclaimed, rushing over to him. "Welcome back." Emma frowned slightly, the eye roll returning. Who was this guy? She thought about the level of excitement he inspired in people. She took a deep breath and stepped inside the elevator, pressing the button for her floor. As the doors closed, she couldn't shake her irritation. It wasn't just about Mr. Wilson, it was the way people flocked to him like moths to a flame. Sure, he was handsome, confident, but what about the rest of them? What made him so special? When the elevator opened, Emma stepped out, shaking off her thoughts. She entered her room and sighed with relief. It was everything she had imagined it would be: soft, calming colors, a big window overlooking the city, glaring lights, vibrant life. She dropped her bag on the floor and sank onto the plush bed, trying to push Mr. Wilson from her mind. But on her first day of meetings, the name echoed around her. "He's coming in for a partnership discussion," her boss said over lunch. "Everyone loves him." Emma couldn't help but feel a little bitterness rise in her throat. "Mr. Wilson," she muttered under her breath. Days went by, and the closer she got to the partnership meeting, the more nervous she became. Each time she walked through the lobby, she saw Mr. Wilson surrounded by staff as they greeted him. Their enthusiasm was overwhelming, and Emma found herself observing him closely. He was kind, warmly laughing with everyone. It was hard to ignore the aura he exuded. One evening, after a long day of presentations, Emma sank into a chair in the hotel bar. She ordered a drink, hoping to unwind when she saw him again. He sat at a corner table, finishing up some work. She wanted to turn away, but something kept her locked in place. As if sensing her gaze, he lifted his eyes and caught her staring. Emma quickly looked down, feeling heat spread across her cheeks. She thought she was just a nobody compared to him. The tension in her chest mixed with something unfamiliar, almost curiosity. Maybe he wasn't so terrible after all. Over the next few days, Emma tried harder to focus on her work and not think about Mr. Wilson. Yet every interaction made her question her first impressions. It was the way he remembered people's names and the small chats he had with the staff. He treated everyone with respect, even those in the background, though she had barely noticed. The night before the partnership meeting, Emma was in her room, unable to sleep. She stared out at the city lights, her mind racing. The nervous energy in her stomach twisted tighter by the minute. What if she messed up? What if she was outshone by Mr. Wilson? Eventually, her exhaustion caught up to her and she fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, her anxiety intensified. As she dressed, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. She looked good, strong. She was there to make an impression, too. The meeting loomed ahead. When Emma walked into the conference room, she took a deep breath and looked around. The long table was filled with serious faces, and at the end sat Mr. Wilson, confidently typing on his laptop. Slowly, the meeting kicked off. Emma was prepared. She spoke clearly and confidently, pouring her heart into her presentation. But as the discussion rolled on, she noticed Mr. Wilson was listening intently and not just to her. Engaged with everyone, encouraging dialogue, creating a comfortable atmosphere. As the meeting progressed, Emma started to see the real Mr. Wilson. He wasn't just a handsome, charming man, he cared about what everyone had to say. Maybe it was his genuine interest that won people over. Her perspective began to shift, and she couldn't deny the admiration bubbling within her. Once the meeting wrapped, it was time for informal discussions. Emma felt a surge of fear and excitement. Would they get him? Would he look down on her? As she stood up, she felt a tap on her shoulder. "Hey, great job in there," Mr. Wilson said, flashing her a warm smile. A mix of surprise and flattery coursed through her veins, leaving her momentarily speechless. "You really held your own." With renewed confidence, Emma engaged him in conversation. They discussed the project, and to her surprise, he was down to earth. He joked about the challenges, and laughter bubbled between them, breaking down walls she hadn't known she had built. The more they talked, the more she understood the magic he wove around him. He listened. He genuinely cared. Emma felt that tension from before soften. Over the coming days, their paths crossed more often. Each interaction grew richer, deeper. With every chat, the eye roll she had at his name transformed into a smile. Mr. Wilson had this spark that was infectious. She began to see him as a mentor, a colleague with depth. One evening, they found themselves seated together at a dinner, surrounded by colleagues celebrating a successful partnership. Emma watched as the staff circled around Mr. Wilson, but it wasn't worship anymore. It felt like family, the warmth, the connection. "You know, Emma," he said, catching her attention, "I admire your determination. You've got a unique perspective." Her heart raced. He meant it. His words weren't just polite chatter, they were sincere. Emma felt a sense of belonging beginning to settle within her. By the end of her trip, she was no longer that girl rolling her eyes at his name. She understood the journey he'd taken, the struggles behind the charm. Mr. Wilson was a person, and his success was rooted in authenticity. On her last evening, as she packed her bag, she glanced in the mirror and saw a transformation. The nerves, the doubt, it had all faded away. She had embraced who she was, and for the first time, she felt truly confident. As she checked out of the hotel the next morning, she caught Mr. Wilson's eye one last time. "Good luck with everything," he said, and she felt a rush of gratitude swelling in her chest. She smiled back, a genuine grin breaking across her face. The warm connection hung in the air, a powerful reminder of what she had gained during her trip. Walking away, Emma felt lighter, her heart open. In that luxurious hotel, surrounded by bright lights and busy lives, she discovered that sometimes first impressions could shift into powerful connections, transforming her perception and perhaps her life forever. The luxurious hotel lobby buzzed with excitement as Emma stepped inside. The soft hum of conversation blended with the clinking of glasses and the faint notes of a piano. But as she walked deeper into the elegant surroundings, her focus was interrupted by a name that made her feel a subtle irritation. "Here comes Mr." a voice exclaimed. Emma couldn't help but roll her eyes. The way people spoke about him, like he was some kind of royalty, irked her. She had just checked in for a 2-day business trip, and already he seemed to be looming over her like a shadow. With her suitcase rolling behind her, she approached the front desk. The receptionist's face lit up upon hearing the name again, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "Oh, Mr. Wilson, we've prepared everything for you as usual." Emma felt a little spark of annoyance ignite inside her. Who was this man that made everyone so excited? Admittedly, he must have been successful, but did he really need to bask in all that attention? She finished checking in, eager to escape the lobby and its celebrity-like vibe. Dragging her suitcase toward the elevators, she suddenly caught sight of him, Mr. Wilson, as striking as the sun shining through the glass doors. Tall, handsome gray hair swept back and a tailored suit hugging his frame perfectly. He exuded confidence with every step he took, but Emma couldn't look away. The moment he entered the lobby, the atmosphere seemed to shift. Like a king entering his court, staff rushed to greet him. A server hopped out of nowhere. "Good evening, Mr. Wilson." "Smooth, thanks. Always nice to come back here," he replied with a warm smile, his brown eyes twinkling. Emma shook her head, trying to refocus. Was this really happening? She was just another person trying to make her mark in the business world, and here was a man, seemingly adored by all, gliding effortlessly through his life. As the elevator doors slid shut behind her, she let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "Ridiculous," she whispered to herself. But the truth was, she couldn't shake the curiosity that gnawed at her. Life was full of unexpected surprises, and the more she witnessed the way people responded to Mr. Wilson, the more she wanted to know about him. Yet she pushed the thoughts away and focused on the upcoming meetings. Later that night, while trying to wind down in her room, she could still hear laughter and camaraderie from the bar downstairs. Emma took a moment to glance out her window, the neon city alive and shimmering under the stars. She thought about how Mr. Wilson seemed to fit right in with that glow, charming everyone around him. But why did it bother her so much? It wasn't just envy, it was as if he had stolen a world from her. But why should she care? She had come here to seal a deal to show her abilities, not to lose herself in someone else's limelight. The next morning, she sat at the hotel cafe, a steaming cup of coffee cradled in her hands. She felt apprehensive as she skimmed over her notes. This was no ordinary meeting, it was a potential game-changer for her career. Just as she glanced up, Mr. Wilson strolled in, his presence casting a warm glow over the crowded room. He approached the barista like an old friend, exchanging jokes and making small talk. Emma couldn't help but take a closer look. The way he connected with people wasn't just about charm, it was about making them feel seen. There was an ease in his demeanor that made the staff laugh like they were sharing secrets. Emma observed, caught in the moment. The barista, a young woman with bright pink nails, looked empowered as she served Mr. Wilson his usual drink. She said, her grin so wide it lit up the entire cafe. Emma put her coffee down, her mind racing. Wasn't it annoying, the way he made people feel so special? The psychological insights into charisma almost fascinated her, yet she pushed that aside. She shook her head, trying to refocus on her notes. Soon, the day became a blur of meetings, phone calls, and conversations. But every time she turned a corner, she saw Mr. Wilson greeting staff with that same genuine warmth, laughing with clients, and easily navigating the complexities of business. It was hard to keep her irritation alive when she saw how effortlessly he handled himself. Words like inspirational bubbled up, but she couldn't let it out. Could she really admire someone who had become her professional rival? By the time the evening rolled around, she felt drained but curious. Desiring to clear her head, she decided to head toward the bar for a drink. Still occupied by her thoughts, she sat down at a booth tucked away in the corner. As she sipped her whiskey, though, she noticed Mr. Wilson sitting not too far away. This time, he wasn't alone. He was engaged in lively conversation. One of his close colleagues leaned in, laughing heartily at a joke Mr. Wilson had made. Something about that moment pulled on Emma's heartstrings. She sighed, feeling an odd mixture of frustration and longing. Just then, the bar staff began a lineup, offering drinks and snacks as they greeted him by name. "Mr. Wilson," they said, their smiles wide and genuine. Emma felt her heart pound in her chest. It wasn't just respect, it felt like affection, even adoration. "Wrong," she whispered under her breath, but even she didn't fully believe it. Without thinking, Emma decided to make her move. Fueled by a mix of anger and curiosity, she made her way over to where he sat. "Excuse me, Mr. Wilson," she said with a tone of slight defiance. His eyes, warm and inviting, turned towards her. A hint of surprise flashed across his face, but it quickly transformed into a smile. "Special." "I don't know about that, I just treat people how I wish to be treated." Annoyed, Emma narrowed her eyes. "So that's your secret," he chuckled lightly. "It's not about charm alone, it's genuine interest. When people feel valued, they respond in kind." For a moment she was taken aback. His response wasn't flippant as she had expected. He seemed thoughtful, sincere. His demeanor radiated confidence without arrogance, drawing her in. "Maybe," she replied hesitantly, still crossing her arms. "Isn't it exhausting?" "Not at all," he said, shaking his head. "I love it." Emma felt a vulnerability rise in her. Maybe she had been too quick to judge. Here was someone who had built a career on kindness, a strategy she hadn't considered. At that moment, she saw a glimpse of his depth, something she desperately wanted to dismiss but couldn't. Days passed, yet the flirtation with Mr. Wilson's world stayed with her. The more she learned, the more comfortable she became navigating her feelings. A few more meetings with him turned into conversations after work, and bit by bit, her eye rolling began to evolve into admiration. That connection was softening her. By the time the partnership meeting loomed ahead, she felt more ready than ever. She prepared diligently, wanting to impress not only her team but also Mr. Wilson. The big day arrived, and once again, they found themselves seated across from one another in the conference room. Emma delivered her presentation confidently, fueled by all the meaningful exchanges they had shared. She loved the way Mr. Wilson listened intently, nodding along while making insightful comments. The dynamic shifted. She felt like she was not only presenting to colleagues but also making a case for a friend. She watched him engage with her ideas, and with each nod, her anxiety faded. When the discussions wrapped up in applause, the tension in the room broke open to joy. Mr. Wilson announced, a wide grin on his face. Her heart soared. Those words echoed in her mind, the validation she didn't know she needed. The admiration she once held in resentment had transformed into inspiration. In those moments, the hotel staff's unwavering support for Mr. Wilson made sense. He was more than just a name. He was a force of empathy that connected people. By the time her trip came to an end, Emma had grown in ways she hadn't foreseen. Sure, the initial irritation at Mr. Wilson's name had stirred her, but it also pushed her to dig deeper, making her confront her own biases and insecurities. When she finally packed her bags, she felt different. What started with an eye roll had turned into a cherished friendship. As she walked past the lobby for the last time, she caught Mr. Wilson's eye. "Good luck with everything, Emma," he said, that genuine warmth spilling from him once again. And for the first time, she didn't just see a rival, she saw a mentor, a friend. "Thank you," she replied, her heart open. The bright lights of the hotel shone like stars against the dark sky, illuminating the newfound path ahead of her. As she stepped outside, she realized something. A simple name had ignited a journey, leading her toward lessons she'd never forget. Life had a way of surprising her, and sometimes first impressions could become the foundation of something beautiful. "Mr. Wilson," the receptionist chirped, her voice bright enough to cut through the noise of the bustling hotel lobby. Emma felt her stomach twist at the mere sound of the name. She didn't know him, and yet there it was again, that irritating excitement in the air every time he came up. What was it about this guy? She stood at the check-in desk, her heels tapping rhythmically against the polished marble floor. The scent of fresh flowers hung around her, but it did little to soothe the annoyance bubbling inside. It was her first business trip, the big leagues, and she was determined to shine. But here she was, feeling overshadowed by someone she had never even met. Emma grabbed her key and rolled her eyes as she turned away, dismissing the name that took up space in her mind. She marched toward the elevator, grateful to step out of the crowd. Just as the doors were closing, she caught a glimpse of him through the lobby's glass entrance. Tall, impeccably dressed, with an effortless confidence that seemed to draw every eye toward him. Her irritation mounted as she watched hotel staff spring into action, rushing over to greet him. "Welcome back, Mr. Wilson. We've got the usual suite ready for you," one of the bellhops exclaimed, grinning widely. "Thank you." "You all take such great care of me," he replied with a charming smile that seemed to light up the entire lobby. Emma shook her head, muttering to herself. She expressed her contempt through the clenching of her fists, thrusting her finger against the elevator butt. The doors shut, leaving the bustling lobby and Mr. Wilson with her unresolved questions. Once she reached her floor, Emma forced herself to push thoughts of him aside. She unpacked her bags, determined to focus on her upcoming meetings. Yet every time she made her way through the hotel, she saw him, a constant reminder that loomed larger than she liked. Days passed. Emma's schedule was jam-packed: meetings, phone calls, and presentations. Each time she passed through the lobby, Mr. Wilson was there, charming staff and clients alike. The familiarity and cheer with which everyone treated him began to feel suffocating. The eye rolls were practically automatic now, but she couldn't ignore the pang of curiosity tugging at her. It wasn't just jealousy, it was something deeper. She began to wonder what made him tick. Was it charm, talent, some hidden magic? One slow evening, she ended up seated at the hotel bar, trying to unwind with a drink when he entered, laughter trailing behind him like a comet's tail. Without thinking, Emma fixed her gaze on him. He was surrounded by friends and employees, but what struck her most was the warmth in the way he engaged with everyone. Every kind word, every laugh shared, weaving connections like a master craftsman. "Mister," the bartender asked, grinning. "Of course, but let's add some cocktails to that," he replied, casually throwing his head back in laughter. It was infectious, and Emma felt a stir of intrigue. What was this spell he seemed to cast on everyone? She whispered to herself, her irritation melting away, replaced by a flicker of admiration. But she pushed it down harshly, reminding herself she had arrived to make a mark of her own. The next day in meetings, something shifted. While presenting her ideas, Emma noticed Mr. Wilson sitting casually at the back of the room. She could feel his gaze pulling her in, his body language encouraging. It was as if he genuinely wanted her to succeed, and she did. Her ideas flowed freely, powered by a newfound confidence that seemed to blossom underneath his gaze. Praise came her way, and the meeting confirmed what she had been working toward. But still, Mr. Wilson's presence lingered, nagging at her mind. After the meeting, she couldn't help herself any longer. She approached him in the hallway. She asked bluntly. He replied, a teasing grin on his face. "Make it look so easy, you seem to be flawless," she said, half joking but seriously curious. He chuckled softly. "It's not about being flawless, it's about being genuine, Emma. People can tell when you care. Listen to them, engage with them." Her brow furrowed. Countless people are out there trying to charm their way through life. Maybe it's not about being different, maybe it's about seeing the value in others, he mused. We're all people after all, trying to make connections. Emma paused, absorbing his words. The irritation she felt slowly transformed into respect and maybe understanding. She hadn't considered that perspective. It was simple, yet powerful. Weeks flew by, but the tension between them remained electric. Their conversations grew deeper, turning into shared laughter and thoughtful exchanges. With each encounter, she began to see glimpses of Mr. Wilson beyond the admiration from the hotel staff. There was depth, intelligence, and kindness woven together. As their friendship developed, Emma found herself more open to different ideas, her work improving as she learned from him. The first time he complimented her after a successful pitch, her heart skipped a beat. "You really nailed that one, Emma," he said, pride shining in his eyes. Emma felt her chest swell. His words ignited something she'd never felt before: validation. "Thanks, but honestly, it's because you encouraged me," she said, sincerity pouring from her voice. On the final night of her trip, she took a moment to reflect on the experiences she'd had. While she sat nursing a drink, Mr. Wilson sidled up next to her, his presence warm and familiar. Looking contemplative, he observed. "I am," she admitted. He tilted his head, listening intently. "I came here ready to roll my eyes at your name," she confessed with a hint of amusement. She trailed off, searching for the words. "Somehow you turned that irritation into something like friendship. There's magic in getting to know people beyond the surface," he said softly. Just then, the hotel staff began to gather for a farewell gathering in the bar. They lined up, ready to send Mr. Wilson off with warm hugs and heartfelt goodbyes, not just another departing guest but a friend. Emma watched, her heart swelling with emotions she didn't know how to express. She asked. "It happens every time," he replied, his voice both proud and humble, "but it's genuine." Emma felt something unsettling in her chest, an unfamiliar joy. Here was someone who treated each interaction as precious, and it wasn't just a performance. She wondered if she could ever embody that same spirit, that openness to connection. As the crowd cheered and raised their glasses, she caught his eye. "Cheers to new friendships," he exclaimed, lifting his glass. She joined him, surprised at the wave of emotion that washed over her. "Cheers," she replied, her heart pounding. At that moment, she saw Mr. Wilson in a new light. He was more than just a name to roll her eyes at. He was a brilliant reminder of how connection worked. That evening, as she prepared to leave, Emma was filled with an odd mix of gratitude and sadness. When it came time for their final goodbye, she didn't know what to say. "Take care, Emma," Mr. Wilson said, his eyes reflecting a warmth that had become all too familiar. "You too," she replied, finally mustering the courage. "And thank you for showing me how to truly connect." He grinned broadly. The pleasure was all mine. Her heart swelled as she took one last look at him, heart pounding and hopeful. As she walked away from the hotel, she realized that sometimes the people you least expect can change your life the most. Mr. Wilson had gone from a name that stirred irritation to an unexpected teacher, a friend who helped guide her toward a brighter path. And just like that, Emma couldn't help but smile. She had come looking for success, and instead, she found something deeper, something beautiful. Life had a way of surprising her, and the journey hadn't ended, it had only just begun. Mr. Wilson, the receptionist, chimed, her excitement palpable. Emma stood off to the side, purse clutched tightly in her hands, an eye roll almost automatic. This was her first night at the elegant hotel, and the buzz surrounding this man was already more than she could take. Who was he, and why did everyone treat him like a pop star walking through the doors? As she stepped to the check-in desk, she caught a glimpse of him through the glass door stall, impeccably dressed, with an aura of charm that seemed to ripple through the lobby. It was irritating how effortlessly confident he appeared. The lobby was a flurry of activity, smiles, and laughter, all directed at Mr. Wilson. Emma felt like an outsider peering in on a world she didn't belong to. With her room key finally in hand, she made her way toward the elevator, shaking off the irritation creeping up her spine. The moment she stepped inside, she pressed the button for her floor, hoping to escape the buzz surrounding Mr. Wilson. But her thoughts strayed back to him like a moth to a flame. What made him so special? Despite her resolve, the next day was no better. As she prepared for her meetings, she overheard snippets of conversations that only heightened her annoyance. "I just love how Mr. Wilson always remembers our names," one staff member said. Another chimed in. Emma had a hard time swallowing that. Maybe genuine people didn't need to flaunt their popularity. Walking through the hotel again, she crossed paths with Mr. Wilson. The way he engaged with the staff felt almost magnetic. "Thank you for that," he said to a bellhop who looked as if he were ready to burst with excitement just from being acknowledged. Emma felt that familiar clenching of her stomach. Was everyone really that willing to be charmed into submission? The days flowed like a river, and although Emma tried to drown out her annoyance, she found herself trapped in a whirlwind of conflicting feelings. Part of her was enveloped by curiosity. Who was this man? What was his secret? Each time she saw him interact with the staff, she felt something softening inside, though she'd never admit it out loud. Then she realized she would have to meet him. That evening, she wore her best blazer, steeling herself as she stepped into the hotel bar. The room crackled with laughter and conversation. Mr. Wilson was seated in a corner, surrounded by a small group. Emma saw the way the staff moved around him, eager to please, and the tiniest flicker of jealousy sparked within her. Summoning her courage, she made her way over, heart pounding in her chest. If she was going to confront this nagging feeling, she might as well do it boldly. She asked, trying to keep her tone casual. He looked up, surprised but not displeased. Of course, there was a moment of silence before conversation flowed naturally between them. She couldn't help but notice how his eyes sparkled with interest, like he genuinely wanted to hear her thoughts. It threw her off at first. She was so used to seeing him as someone untouchable. He asked, "I'm here for business," she replied, trying to sound confident despite her rising nervousness. "Ah, the big legs," he chuckled, and it lightened the mood. She found herself laughing in return, intrigued despite the skepticism still lingering at the back of her mind. Gradually, conversations turned from business to personal anecdotes. She let herself relax, amused at how comfortable she began to feel around Mr. Wilson. Soon he began to share stories of his life, filled with humor and authenticity. Emma found herself captivated by his openness, peeling away the layers of charm to reveal a surprisingly complex individual underneath. But still, a nagging doubt lingered. Was it all an act? Later that week, Emma found herself witnessing the impact of Mr. Wilson's connections firsthand. While preparing for a crucial meeting, she overheard him discussing an important deal with a client. His tone was warm and engaging, focusing not just on business, but on the people involved. "I really value what you bring to the table," he said, treating the person like a partner, not just a number. Watching him made her uneasy. She couldn't help but feel a mixture of admiration and irritation. The way he had transformed the room was enchanting, yet it exposed her own insecurities about the relationships she was striving to build in her career. Why did it feel like he was always 2 steps ahead? That night, Emma found herself pacing in her hotel room, wrestling with her thoughts. She stared out at the city skyline, its lights twinkling like stars. Was this rivalry she felt for Mr. Wilson missing the bigger picture? The next day, Emma made it a point to seek his advice. After the mandatory meetings, she approached him during a break. She asked, the weight of her request heavy in the air. "Absolutely," he replied, smiling at the seriousness of her tone. They settled into a quieter corner of the hotel. Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've noticed how you engage with others. I can't help but think there's a lesson there." "Simple," he said, his expression shifting to one of reflection. "It's about seeing people for who they are, really listening. Everyone has something valuable to share." His words hung in the air, and Emma felt the weight of them pressing down on her. She had assumed he was less interested in other people, focused solely on his own success, but he was revealing layers of wisdom that spoke to her insecurities. She asked hesitantly, "Absolutely, you just need to allow yourself to be vulnerable." "Trust me, it gets easier with practice," he replied, his eyes warm and encouraging. In that moment, Emma felt the walls she'd built around herself start to crumble. Perhaps rolling her eyes at his name had only mirrored her own doubts. Perhaps he was an ally, not a rival. Weeks passed, and the final meeting for the partnership was swiftly approaching. Emma had prepared tirelessly, but her nerves were palpable. What if she messed up? What if Mr. Wilson overshadowed her once again? On the day of the meeting, they walked into the conference room together. Emma felt a surge of energy as she glanced at him beside her. Mr. Wilson exuded confidence, and it calmed her. "Just breathe," he whispered. And as the discussions unfolded, something shifted. For the first time, Emma didn't feel overshadowed, she felt supported. Whenever she spoke, Mr. Wilson leaned in, nodded, and encouraged the room to consider her insights, making her feel valued. The meeting concluded with enthusiasm and applause for both of them, a celebration of teamwork rather than competition. Emma's heart raced with triumph, the spirit of collaboration washing over her like a wave. Afterward, the hotel staff gathered to congratulate them. Emma found herself in the midst of a celebration, the warmth of the moment wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. The staff lined up, cheering for Mr. Wilson and her. She could hardly believe how far she had come, how the animosity she initially felt transformed into collaboration and mutual respect. Later that evening, as they both unwound in the hotel bar, the atmosphere buzzed with a warmth she now understood. Emma said, her smile bright, "Absolutely." He replied, sincerity shining in his eyes. Her heart felt light. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, feeling the weight of gratitude wash over her. It's easy to believe in someone who has the potential to shine. "You just need to let yourself do it," he said, leaning back with a proud smile. Sitting there, Emma realized how much she had underestimated him. The name she once rolled her eyes at was now a beacon of friendship and support. In getting to know him, she had dismantled her stubborn prejudices, learning to appreciate the genuine connections that bring people together. As the night wore on and laughter filled the room, she looked out at the city, feeling renewed. Life had a way of surprising her, turning initial irritation into steadfast friendships. The warmth of the room wrapped around her, and she knew this wouldn't be the last she saw of Mr. Wilson or of herself. In that moment, she felt a sense of closure. She had arrived at the hotel carrying an edge of envy, and she was leaving with newfound confidence and allies. She smiled, realizing that in understanding Mr. Wilson, she had also discovered something extraordinary within herself. As she said her goodbyes, he leaned in closer. "This is just the beginning, Emma." With a soft smile, she nodded, knowing he was right. Life was a beautiful tapestry of relationships, and in that hotel she'd found a vibrant thread she never expected to weave into her story. The receptionist's voice rang through the hotel lobby like a high note in a symphony, cutting through the noise of the bustling crowd. Emma stood at the front desk, her eyes narrowing involuntarily. She rolled her eyes, a knee-jerk reaction to the excessive excitement over a name she had heard too many times that day. Who was this guy, and why did everyone treat him like he was royalty? As she secured her room key, she couldn't shake her irritation. With every passing moment, the anticipation for this Mr. Wilson grew palpable. Looking around the opulent lobby filled with gleaming marble countertops and chandeliers dripping crystals, she felt different, like an outsider in her own skin. She was here for a critical business trip, yet she felt overshadowed by someone whose name floated on the lips of every hotel staff member. Dragging her suitcase, she pushed through the revolving doors to the outside, the city air rushing past her. The sound of laughter and cheerful greetings filtered in, and she couldn't help but look back. There he was, Mr. Wilson, the man of the hour. Tall and poised with a tailored suit that fit like a glove, he glided through the lobby with an air of confidence that almost made Emma scowl. His presence drew a small crowd of staff eager to welcome him, smiles lighting up their faces. "Welcome back, Mr. Wilson." A chef beamed, a server clapping him on the back. Emma felt an unsettling mix of annoyance and curiosity stirring inside her. Who was this guy who made everyone feel like they were part of his personal entourage? Once in her room, Emma tossed her suitcase onto the bed and paced the floor. She opened her laptop, trying to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept returning to the lobby. Why did everyone adore him? It felt ridiculous, like a fan club for someone they barely knew. She couldn't deny a flicker of jealousy. Was he genuinely charming, or was it all an act? The next day, Emma found herself wandering through the hotel again. She noticed that every time she passed Mr. Wilson, he was surrounded by a throng of admirers, bright and bubbly as they relayed stories of his visits. The hotel staff spoke of him like he was a long-lost friend. One manager said with a laugh. Emma squashed the rising proof of another eye roll. Later that week, Emma attended a conference in the hotel. With each session that passed, she caught glimpses of Mr. Wilson. He was at every event, moving seamlessly from one conversation to another, making everyone around him feel valued. One evening, after a particularly long day, Emma leaned against the bar. She sipped her drink, trying to unwind when she saw him again. This time, he was sitting alone in a corner, tapping away on a laptop. Curiosity piqued once more. She almost felt compelled to confront him. What did he have that she didn't? What was the secret ingredient he infused into his interactions that made people gravitate towards him? With her heart pulsating in her chest, she pushed away from the bar and approached him. She asked, trying to sound confident despite the butterflies dancing in her stomach. "Not at all," he smiled, flashing a grin that was surprisingly warm. Emma did her best to sound relaxed. "It seldom slows down," he replied, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. They fell into an easy rhythm, a surprising connection blossoming between them. She found herself laughing at his anecdotes, surprised at how genuine and down-to-earth he was. As they spoke, a part of Emma began to thaw, releasing that instinctive irritation. Perhaps there was more to him than just a name associated with charm and popularity. He inquired, leaning forward with genuine interest. "Trying to make a name for myself in the industry," she admitted. "I get that," Mr. Wilson nodded, his expression serious for a moment. "We all want that connection." Emma felt like she was being seen for the first time. Maybe she had misjudged him, and maybe there was something to learn here. Over the weeks, she found herself seeking him out more often. Their shared conversations became a refuge, each one deepening the bond between them. But the other side of her still wrestled with the nagging doubt. Was he simply putting on a show? Did he treat everyone with this much enthusiasm, or was she special? One evening, Emma caught wind of the hotel staff preparing for a farewell party for Mr. Wilson after a long week of successful meetings. The excitement in the air was almost palpable. She watched the staff gather around him, smiles glowing on their faces like moths drawn to a flame. "Mister," they clamored, each trying to catch his attention, offering heartfelt thanks mixed with banter. Emma leaned against the wall, feeling her heart race. Here he was, yet again, stealing the spotlight that she had so desperately fought for. He laughed, his voice carrying warmth, easing the tension around him. "I can't thank you enough for making my time here so special." In that moment, Emma was struck by the sincerity emanating from him. People respected him not just for his success, but because he genuinely cared about their lives. It dawned on her how even the simplest interactions mattered. Acknowledgement and kindness were powerful tools. The next day, she decided to confront her feelings head-on. After yet another fruitful meeting, she approached him. "I wanted to thank you for helping me find my confidence during this trip," she began, her voice steady yet soft. "Emma, you have more strength than you realize," he replied earnestly. Those words struck a chord, igniting a renewed sense of conviction within her. In the chaos of her career, she had overlooked the value of connection and kindness. The more she learned from him, the more she saw that self-worth and the worth of others intertwined in ways she never considered before. As the days sped by, the farewell party grew closer. Emma was excited yet apprehensive. She finally decided to invite him to dinner, a gesture of camaraderie built from respect. "What do you say to dinner tomorrow?" "Sounds great," he said, a grin spreading across his face. The night of the farewell dinner arrived, and Emma felt a nervous excitement flutter in her stomach. They dined at a warm little restaurant, laughter spilling from their table. She found herself sharing more than she ever thought possible, deepening their connection in ways she hadn't imagined. She asked, glancing up to gauge his reaction. "Absolutely," he replied warmly. "Connections are meant to last, Emma." While their shared time at the hotel was coming to a close, Emma no longer felt the urge to roll her eyes at Mr. Wilson's name. Instead, she smiled, celebrating the unexpected friendship that had blossomed. On the final night of Mr. Wilson's stay, the farewell party was nothing short of spectacular. The hotel was decorated, filled with laughter and music, vibrant and electric. Staff lined up, waiting to share heartfelt messages and goodbyes, thanking him for his kindness and warmth. Emma watched from a distance, her heart swelling with pride for him. "Thank you for everything you've done for us," the hotel manager said, his voice tinged with emotion. Mr. Wilson beamed, soaking in the appreciation. He made a point to thank each staff member individually, and Emma was mesmerized, recognizing the profound impact he had on everyone around him. As the night wore on, Emma found herself standing beside him as people crowded around. "You've changed their lives," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just me," he shrugged. "It's the connections we build." Later, when everyone had gathered for a final toast, Emma stood by his side, raised her glass, and felt the camaraderie envelop her. She toasted, her voice strong and confident. Everyone echoed, and with that, Emma felt the culmination of her journey within those simple words. As the evening ended and goodbyes were said, Emma felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. No longer was Mr. Wilson just a name. He was a lesson in kindness, connection, and the power of community. She understood now that life was far richer when shared with others. When the night came to close, they stepped outside together. "It's been a pleasure getting to know you, Emma," he said, sincerity etched in every word. "I feel the same," she replied, feeling a knot release in her chest. As they parted ways, Emma looked out at the city skyline, knowing that someone who had once sparked her irritation had now ignited something remarkable within her. The warmth of their shared moments created a glow that would linger, pushing her forward in her career and her personal life. It was a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the people you least expect can change your path in ways you never imagined. What began with an eye roll had blossomed into a friendship that would forever shape her understanding of success. And just as she stepped into the night, Emma realized that connections were more than just names. They were stories waiting to unfold. Mr. The exuberance in the receptionist's voice cut through the hotel lobby like a bolt of lightning. Emma stood at the front desk, her heart sinking as she felt her eyes roll involuntarily. Another mention of that name, always said with a sparkle of admiration. Who was this guy, and why did everyone seem so enamored by him? As she took her room key and adjusted her purse on her shoulder, she couldn't shake the irritation that brewed inside her. She had come to this luxurious hotel for a crucial work trip, her first big opportunity, only to have her spotlight overshadowed by someone she had never even met. The buzz around Mr. Wilson felt heavy against her chest, like a cloud blocking her sun. Dragging her suitcase through the grand lobby, Emma caught a glimpse of him just outside the large glass doors. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that fit perfectly, he walked with an easy stride. His presence was magnetic, drawing hotel staff toward him like moths to a flame. "Welcome back, mister," a bellhop exclaimed, his face lighting up with joy. Emma felt annoyance twist in her stomach. What made this man so special? Did he even deserve this kind of reverence? "You all are the best," he replied, his voice warm and inviting. The sincerity in his tone made Emma's irritation bubble to the surface, forcing her to look away. Whatever he had, she didn't want to admire it. She focused on her goal. She needed to shine in her roles, not be caught in someone else's glow. Later that evening, Emma found herself trying to unwind in her room. The hotel was beautiful, filled with plush furniture and stunning artwork, but she couldn't shake the irritation gnawing at her. She settled into a plush armchair, her laptop resting precariously on her lap, but her thoughts drifted back to the lobby and Mr. Wilson. Every time she entered the cafe, every hallway she walked down, she saw him, surrounded by staff, engaging in laughter and drawing them in like bees to honey. One staff member gushed to a colleague. Each remark rubbed salt into her fresh wounds. The next day was a whirlwind of meetings, and to her dismay, Mr. Wilson was a hot topic of conversation. During lunch, her boss turned to the table and said, "You all know how impressive Mr. Wilson is." Emma bit her tongue, frustration building like a pressure cooker. Did nobody see how often they elevated one person above everyone else? As the days passed, Emma's irritation morphed into something else: curiosity. What was it about him that captivated everyone's attention? She decided she needed to confront her feelings head-on. One evening, she spotted him again in the hotel bar. He sat alone, reviewing notes. Taking a deep breath, she hesitated but finally walked up to him. She asked, surprising herself with the boldness. "Not at all," he replied, his smile warm and inviting. Emma sat, feeling both brave and anxious. "So, Mr. Wilson," she started, pushing down the apprehension. "What's the secret?" A soft chuckle escaped him. "It's not about me, really. I believe in connection." His sincerity caught her off guard. That simple answer shifted something inside her. Could it be that he was just genuinely interested in people? They spoke for hours. His stories were filled with humor, heart, and vulnerability. The more she listened, the more she realized the man she had shadowed in disdain was someone who cared about others, who made them feel appreciated. Suddenly, the veneer of irritation peeled away, revealing layers of admiration she hadn't expected. Emma felt something shift. She was being led down a path of understanding she hadn't thought possible. While their conversations deepened, she found comfort in his wisdom and his approach to life, but that old habit still lingered. Even as the days passed and their rapport strengthened, the whispers of doubt crept back. Was she falling under his charm without knowing what lay beneath? One afternoon, she tried to shake off that lingering uncertainty. She spotted Mr. Wilson chatting with a group of staff. They laughed, he teased a little, and she noticed the way they all leaned in, clearly hanging on his words. "You're incredible, mister," a cocktail server exclaimed. Emma watched, a tight knot forming in her stomach. It was as if every kind word he received cut into her own self-worth. That evening, feeling frustrated yet determined to clarify her feelings, Emma cornered him near the bar. "I need to know how you do it. How do you connect with so many people and still have time to be?" "I find joy in others," he said matter-of-factly, leaning against the bar as though sharing a secret. "When you listen and show appreciation, people will naturally gravitate toward you." His calm demeanor confused her. "Wasn't he aware of how admired he was?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. "Not in the least. I find it energizing. It's the relationships we build that ground us," he replied. Emma felt challenged, and that ignited something inside her, a flicker of something she hadn't believed was possible. Maybe she could break free of her own restraints, embodying that same warmth she saw in him. The days moved forward, and as preparations for a major partnership meeting began, Emma found herself drawn to Mr. Wilson more than ever. His insights and encouragement bolstered her confidence, helping her frame her arguments thoughtfully and clearly. The night before the big meeting, she sat on her hotel bed, reviewing her notes. As she glanced out the window at the city lights, she felt a rush of nervous energy. Would she manage to make her voice heard? Would he support her just like he had before? The meeting day dawned bright. With every passing hour, Emma's excitement and anxiety intensified. Entering the room felt like stepping onto a stage, and there he was, Mr. Wilson, seated a few chairs down, exuding confidence. He caught her eye and winked, a small gesture that sent warmth through her. The interaction felt electric as the discussions unfolded. Emma spoke clearly, presenting her ideas with conviction as she had practiced. She could sense Mr. Wilson's encouraging presence, leaning forward, nodding as she spoke. No longer did she feel like her voice was overshadowed. She felt empowered. When the meeting concluded successfully, applause erupted in the room. She turned to see Mr. Wilson smiling at her with pride evident in his gaze. He exclaimed, and the weight of exhaustion lifted, leaving only exuberance behind. Later that evening, there was a farewell party organized for Mr. Wilson. The air was electric with anticipation as the hotel staff gathered to express their appreciation. Emma found herself standing at the edge of the group, feeling both happy for him and slightly melancholy. Mister, they cheered as he entered the room, and Emma marveled at the genuine love and respect the staff had for him. Someone called out, and he responded with heartfelt thanks to everyone around him. As she watched, Emma realized something monumental. The earlier irritation she harbored dissolved into gratitude. Through him, she had discovered how important relationships were and how connecting with others could transform her own experience. As the night wore on, she approached him again. I just wanted to say thank you for everything. You've truly changed my perspective, she said, the sincerity registering in her voice. It was a two-way street, Emma. You've opened up and shown me strengths I hadn't seen before, too, he replied, his eyes twinkling with sincerity. They shared a moment of understanding. He had helped her grow, just as she had made him reflect. The barriers around her heart had crumbled, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and respect. Later, as the party drew to a close, she slipped outside for some fresh air. The moonlit city glimmered before her, each light echoing the discovery she had made. With Mr. Wilson's assistance, she had transformed from someone timid, constantly rolling her eyes, to someone confident and open. Suddenly, he joined her outside, catching her off guard. I'm glad we ran into each other, he said. You have a real talent for connecting, Emma. I won't, she replied, feeling the warmth radiating through her. In that moment, everything changed again. No longer would she glance dismissively at his name. Instead, she would remember the kindness, the warmth, the gentle nudges toward growth he had provided. As they parted ways that evening, Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It was done. She had learned to focus on connection, to embrace vulnerability, and to step outside her comfort zone. In doing so, she realized that sometimes it takes an unexpected person to teach you about yourself. The winding journey from irritation to appreciation filled her with gratitude. She looked toward the stars above and embraced the adventures yet to come. In confronting her biases, she found her path to growth and connection, the true essence of success. Mister, the receptionist's voice rang out with such exuberance that Emma couldn't help but wince. She stood at the check-in desk, a frown forming on her face as her eyes rolled instinctively. Who was this Mr. Wilson who seemed to be the center of attention in a hotel that was bustling with guests? As she grabbed her room key, the clerk, bright-eyed and bubbly, couldn't stop gushing about him. Emma's annoyance flared. She was here for her first important business trip, an opportunity to prove herself, and instead, all she heard about was this man who seemed to bask in the glow of adoration from everyone around. What did he have that made people rave about him like he was a rock star? Dragging her suitcase behind her, she marched toward the elevator, determined to drown out her thoughts. But as she waited, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Wilson stepping through the revolving doors. Tall with a striking presence, he was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. The aura surrounding him was magnetic, and she felt a pang of irritation as the hotel staff flocked around him like loyal fans. Welcome back, Mr. Wilson, they exclaimed, eyes shining with excitement. Emma sighed, shaking her head slightly. What kind of person needed this much attention? Sure, he looked great, but was he really that interesting? Once in her room, she dropped her bags and sank into the plush chair. The hotel was impressive, no doubt, but her mind raced with thoughts of the meetings ahead. Would she even make an impact, or would everyone remember only the name Mr. Time passed, and those thoughts lingered like shadows in the corners of her mind. While preparing for the conference, she made every effort to focus on her work, but whispers of Mr. Wilson floated around her, invading her space. With every mention, her irritation grew, mixed with an annoying pinch of curiosity. What kind of person was he? Beyond those polished shoes and charming smile, who was the man everyone seemed to celebrate? The following day, while navigating the hotel's bustling cafe, she briefly caught another glimpse of him. He stood at the counter, chatting with the barista. She watched as he leaned in, genuinely engaged in conversation, making the staff laugh. A small spark of something began to simmer inside of her. Was it jealousy, admiration? Later that night, Emma found herself sitting at the hotel bar, trying to unwind after a long day. She had her laptop open, yet her mind wandered back to Mr. Wilson. Was it just charm, or was there something deeper behind all those smiles? Gathering her courage, she decided to approach him. She asked, controlling the slight tremor in her voice. He turned to her, his expression warm and inviting. Emma sat down, the air between them charged with a mix of uncertainty and excitement. So, Mr. Wilson, she began, mustering a casual tone, what's your secret? His laughter was light, but his eyes sparkled with sincerity. It's not about me, I believe in connecting with people. Her mind reeled. This wasn't the self-absorbed celebrity she had expected. There was depth in his words. To her surprise, interest eclipsed her irritation, so she decided to dig deeper. They talked for hours, exchanging stories and laughter. Emma began to see a different side of him, one that was vulnerable and genuine. A connection formed, breaking down the walls she had built around herself. She asked, her curiosity piqued. "It's simple," he replied. "When you give attention to others, they feel appreciated." As words hung in the air, Emma felt her heart rate quicken. Here was someone who truly believed in the power of connection, something she had overlooked in her own life. The following day passed in a blur of office meetings, but every time she noticed Mr. Wilson across the room, her thoughts tangled with admiration and confusion. As she prepared for the next meeting, she tried to shake off the nagging feeling that perhaps she was underestimating him. During a lunch break, Emma overheard a few staff members discussing him again. "He always finds time to ask about my family," one said. "He's different more than just a businessman," another added. Emma couldn't believe how they practically glowed when they spoke of him. Feeling a twinge of jealousy, she decided she needed to understand this dynamic better, so she approached Mr. Wilson during a break. "Where does all this warmth come from? It's not just about saying the right thing, it's about being genuine. I like to think that if you let your guard down, others will too," he explained, sincerity evident in his tone. "Sounds exhausting," Emma replied, skeptical. "Not really. It's energizing to connect with others," he responded. That challenge buzzing in her mind sparked something. What if she could let go? What if connecting with others could add another layer to her growing confidence? Time slipped by and the partnership meeting approached. Her anticipation was mixed with anxiety. Would they appreciate her contributions, or would Mr. Wilson's presence overshadow her? On the day of the big meeting, Emma walked into the conference room, the nerves bubbling inside her like a fizzing soda. As she sat down, she spotted Mr. Wilson towards the back of the room, a reassuring smile on his face. That familiar warmth spread through her, calming her racing heart. As the meeting progressed, Emma found her voice. She presented her ideas clearly and confidently. With every word, she felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't realized she'd been missing. Glancing at Mr. Wilson, she caught his approving nod, fueling her spirit even more. This was her moment. At the end of the meeting, applause erupted as the partnership proposal was accepted. Pride coursed through Emma's veins as she turned to see Mr. Wilson smiling genuinely at her. He exclaimed, admiration gleaming in his eyes. Unknowingly, their paths were now intertwined, each drawing strength from the other. As the evening drew near, she felt the connection they had fostered grow stronger. They decided to celebrate at a local cafe, laughing and sharing their victories. That moment, Emma realized that she had left her old habits behind. No longer did she need to roll her eyes at the name Mr. Instead, she stood proud beside him, appreciating the journey they had both undertaken, the mutual respect and friendship they had formed amidst a crowded hotel. The night of the farewell party for Mr. Wilson arrived, and the atmosphere in the hotel was electric. Staff members gathered, all eagerly waiting to express their gratitude as they celebrated his successes. Emma stood off to the side, feeling a bittersweet twinge in her chest. As Mr. Wilson entered the room, cheers erupted, filling the air with warmth. "You've made this place feel like home," the hotel manager said with a smile. "I couldn't have done it without all of you," Mr. Wilson replied, his eyes scanning the crowd. Each appreciation fed into the energy that defined him, a man deeply connected to those around him. Emma felt a new warmth swell within her as she observed the impact he had made on their lives. That night they strolled into the bar, surrounded by laughter and joy. Emma turned to him, feeling both grateful and awed by the remarkable journey they shared. "Thank you for helping me find my voice and confidence," she said. "It was a two-way street. Your determination and openness inspired me as well," he said, his gaze steady. Outside, the night air had cooled and stars twinkled above them. Emma could only marvel at how their relationship had transformed. She no longer focused on his popularity or the adoration thrown his way. Instead, she celebrated genuine friendships and connections forged through vulnerability and trust. Change surged within her like the cool breeze that enveloped them. Every moment shared had shaped her understanding of herself and others. She had faced her biases, embraced opportunities, and learned to connect on deeper levels, all thanks to a man she once dismissed. As they exchanged goodbyes that night, Emma felt empowered. Yes, Mr. Wilson had helped cultivate her confidence, but she had done the hard work of accepting what his guidance meant. "Until we meet again," he said, an endearing smile on his face that held the promise of future connections. "Until then," she replied, feeling the weight of gratitude surface again. Stepping back, Emma felt lighter, as if she were shedding layers of doubt and insecurity. The journey she had undertaken was only beginning. With newfound confidence, she stepped into the bright lights of the city, ready to embrace whatever came next. In that bustling hotel, she had discovered her strength and the importance of connection. No longer would she roll her eyes at the name Mr. Instead, she would remember the lessons learned along the way, the joy of warmth, camaraderie, and those unbreakable bonds that make life richer. And as the stars sparkled overhead, Emma knew she had walked away with something far more significant than success. She had gained the ability to see and appreciate the beauty in others. Mr. The receptionist's voice rang through the hotel lobby as if calling a celebrity to the stage. Emma clenched her jaw, irritation washing over her. She rolled her eyes without thinking and quickened her pace to check in. How annoying could one name be? She had come here for a crucial business trip, her big break, and the last thing she needed was someone stealing the spotlight. As she received her room key, she overheard the staff buzzing about him. One manager exclaimed. Another added, a spark in her eye. Emma's frown deepened. What was so special about this guy? She dragged her suitcase through the grand lobby, decorated with ornate chandeliers and plush seating. The scent of freshly bloomed lilies wafted through the air, but all she could think about was how, for the next few days, she would have to share this space with Mr. Wilson. By the time she made it to her room, her mind buzzed with irritation, like a swarm of bees trapped in a jar. In her room, Emma perched on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at her laptop screen. She had come here to network to make her mark in the industry, but as she prepared for the upcoming meetings, the thought of Mr. Wilson kept creeping back in. Why did he dominate every conversation? That sense of entitlement irked her to no end. The next morning, she entered the hotel cafe, hoping for a moment of peace with her coffee. But as she waited for her order, she heard a familiar voice nearby. Mr. Wilson asked a staff member, his tone smooth as velvet. "Doing great, Mr. Wilson." Jim's face practically glowed, and Emma felt an unexpected pang of resentment ripple through her. Did he have to be so likable? Collecting her coffee, she carefully made her way to a secluded corner, trying to drown out the world as she focused on her work. But the chatter surrounding Mr. Wilson echoed in her mind. She noticed him effortlessly weaving in and out of conversations, his laughter ringing out like music that attracted more followers. Every day he was there, during meetings, at lunch, and even in casual settings. He had an uncanny knack for making others feel important. Emma couldn't help but feel envious. There she was, struggling to get a word in during meetings, while he seemed to command the room without even trying. On the third day of her trip, Emma attended a conference hosted at the hotel. The grand ballroom sparkled with promise, making her anxious yet hopeful. She took a deep breath, preparing to speak, when she saw him in the front row, leaning back with an air of casual confidence. His very presence sent a shiver up her spine. As the speaker called for questions, Emma raised her hand, desperation driving her words. "I'd like to share my thoughts," but before she could finish, Mr. Wilson chimed in, his voice smooth and assured. "That sounds interesting." He redirected the conversation, and everyone turned to him, leaving her voice lost in the noise. Embarrassment washed over her like a cold wave, crippling her confidence. She felt her spirit shrink as Mr. Wilson captured the room's attention once more. She was tired of being a mere shadow in someone else's light. Later that night, she sat at the hotel bar nursing a drink, trying to shake off the day's disappointment. The world around her blurred into a hazy backdrop as she observed Mr. Wilson across the room. He was engaged in conversation, surrounded by a group of staff and other guests. Their laughter filled the air, and she couldn't help but feel a mix of resentment and intrigue. Just then, the opportunity presented itself. Mr. Wilson caught her eye and waved her over. To her surprise, she felt a flutter of nerves twist in her stomach. She stood up, mentally preparing herself for whatever interaction lay ahead. As she approached, she forced a smile. "Hey, you've really got away with people," she said, her tone carrying a hint of sarcasm. He replied, completely unfazed. "Not bad, I suppose, just trying to find my footing," she replied, a twinge of frustration bubbling up. "It seems everyone here loves you." He leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "It's simple, really. I just try to make everyone feel valued. It's not rocket science." "Right," she shot back, unable to hide her skepticism. "But isn't it exhausting to keep that up?" He chuckled, a sound that momentarily melted her defenses. "Not at all. It's energizing to connect with people." His words hung in the air, and for the first time she felt a ripple of doubt. Was she really putting in the effort to connect, or had she been standing on the sidelines, judging from a distance? Days turned into a blur of meetings and conversations, but each day brought new realizations. Emma started to notice the way Mr. Wilson engaged with everyone from the janitor to the executive. He made it a point to learn names, ask questions, and offer help. It was irrefutable. He genuinely cared. The morning of the final partnership meeting arrived, and Emma felt a whirlwind of anticipation and anxiety. This was her moment. She had prepared tirelessly, determined to impress. The hotel's conference room was filled with energy and excitement. She took her seat, glancing around the room. There, at the head of the table, was Mr. Wilson. As the meeting began, Emma tightened her grip on her notes, determined not to let his presence derail her. But when he smiled at her, warmth radiating from his gaze, she felt buoyed by a sense of camaraderie. The discussions flowed naturally. Emma spoke confidently, feeling the energy shift as she shared her ideas. When she finished, applause erupted around the table, not just for her, but for the dynamic atmosphere they had created together. Her heart swelled. For the first time, she felt the power of connection, like a thread weaving its way through the fabric of the room. After the meeting, the celebration began. Staff members lined up to congratulate Mr. Wilson, their faces lit with joy. Emma watched as he embraced each person, thanking them for their hard work. Every interaction was genuine and heartfelt, and she felt something shift inside her. In the midst of the chaos, Mr. Wilson caught her eye again. He beckoned, motioning to the small gathering. She hesitated only for a moment before walking over. "Everyone, this is Emma," he announced, and the smiles turned to her, instantly filling her with warmth. Emma felt the flush of pride course through her. Maybe there was something to this connection after all. Maybe her initial judgments had blinded her to the beauty of building relationships. As the night wore on, Emma found herself in deep conversation with a few staff members, sharing stories and laughter. She felt liberated, letting down the walls she had built around herself. There was a sense of belonging in this moment, but then, as the celebration continued, she heard a commotion at the entrance. The atmosphere shifted, like a storm rolling in. All eyes turned to the door, where a group of disgruntled guests stood, their faces clouded with frustration. A voice boomed, cutting through the festive air. The crowd grew tense as heads turned, whispers spread like wildfire. Emma instinctively felt the shift, her heart racing. Mr. Wilson stepped forward, his demeanor shifting instantly. He asked with a calm that belied the tension. The lead guest crossed his arms, frustration etched on his face. "I've been waiting for an hour for my room to be sorted." "This is unacceptable." Emma watched intently as Mr. Wilson's expression remained composed. "I apologize for the inconvenience," he said, but she could see the weight of the situation on his shoulders. Just as he began to step away, Emma felt a spark of bravery ignite within her. She had witnessed how he managed people, how he made them feel heard. Maybe she could help. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward beside him. She offered, surprising even herself. The guests turned to her, their eyes shifting between the two of them. She felt their skepticism, but pressed on. "How about we sit down and discuss the issue?" Mr. Wilson glanced at her, a mixture of surprise and approval in his gaze. "That's a great idea, Emma," he said, visibly relieved. As the three of them began discussing the problem, Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, joining forces with a man she once dismissed. Together, they worked to address the guests' concerns, unearthing a path through the chaos. Minutes later, the tension began to dissipate as solutions were proposed and the guests started to soften. Emma exchanged glances with Mr. Wilson, both of them realizing they had turned a potential disaster into a moment of connection. But just as they seemed to have diffused the situation, the lead guest raised a finger, frustration still brewing. He demanded, his voice firm. Emma felt the air shift again, and she exchanged a quick look with Mr. Wilson. They weren't out of the woods yet, and suddenly the stakes felt higher. Would they handle the pressure together and leave the guests satisfied, or would this night devolve into further chaos? With the determination bubbling inside her, she met the guest's gaze head-on. The guest hesitated, clearly taken aback by her assertiveness. Mr. Wilson nodded, adding, "That sounds fair, right?" With bated breath, Emma watched as the lead guest processed their proposal. The tension hung in the air, and in that moment she felt every heartbeat, every breath that followed. Would her gamble pay off or backfire? And then, after a long, heavy pause, the guest's posture relaxed. "All right," he said slowly, an unexpected smile creeping across his face. "You have a deal." As they sealed the agreement, a wave of relief washed over Emma. She turned to Mr. Wilson, who met her with a proud grin. They had turned a moment of potential disaster into an opportunity for connection, both for the guests and themselves. But as the celebration resumed, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that their challenge wasn't quite over. The atmosphere had shifted again, tension in the air lingering like smoke after a fire. She felt a sense of uncertainty creeping back. She wondered silently. Suddenly, the sound of a commotion broke through the cheerful ambience once more. A server rushed in, her face pale. "There's a problem in the kitchen." The statement hung heavy in the air, and Emma's heart sank. She and Mr. Wilson exchanged glances. They had battled one storm, would they handle another? As the staff turned their attention toward the kitchen, her stomach twisted. The night wasn't over yet, and the real test was just beginning. Could she and Mr. Wilson navigate this next upheaval together? Emma's pulse raced, teetering on the edge of uncertainty as chaos loomed. Would they emerge as allies, or would this moment break the fragile bond they had just forged? With determination flooding her veins, she took a step forward, ready to dive back into the fray. The adventure was far from over, and this time she was all in.